You've probably heard this idea before, right? That your mind, your consciousness can literally shape the world around you. It's a really powerful thought, and it's captured a lot of imaginations. So today, we're going to dig into where this idea comes from and, what science actually has to say about it.
So let's just get right to the heart of it. Can you, just by thinking, actually change the physical world? I mean, this isn't some fringe idea anymore. It's popped up everywhere, promising that our minds are the key to creating our own reality. But is that promise really backed by any proof?
Well, there's actually a name for this whole set of ideas. It's called quantum mysticism. And what it does is it takes these really complex concepts from quantum physics and uses them to back up spiritual beliefs about the incredible power of the human mind.
So, why is this claim so appealing? Well, a big part of it is that it seems to borrow the language of science to make its case. So let's take a closer look at what exactly is being claimed here.
It really all boils down to misinterpreting three key concepts. First, you've got the famous observer effect, which gets reframed as proof that a conscious person looking at something literally brings it into existence. Then there's entanglement, where particles are linked. That's used to argue for this grand, universal, spiritual connection between all of us. And finally, superposition. This idea that a particle can be in many states at once is seen as proof that reality is just this infinite field of possibilities, and our thoughts are what make one of them real.
Okay, so those are the claims. But what about the proof? People who believe this will often point to specific experiments as hard scientific evidence. So let's put that evidence under the microscope and see what's actually going on.
The main piece of equipment used in these studies is something called a random event generator, or REG for short. And these things are specifically designed to produce truly random data, all based on totally unpredictable quantum processes.
The experiment itself is pretty simple. You have this machine that just spits out a totally random string of zeros and ones. Then, a person sits down and tries to mentally influence it. To try and make it produce more ones than zeros, just by thinking about it. And afterward, the researchers combed through the data to see if that person's intention actually caused any kind of ripple, any deviation from what you'd expect from pure chance.
And this is where things get really interesting. Some of these studies did report finding an effect. They found a statistically significant deviation, which, that sounds pretty impressive, right? But here's the thing you have to know. These reported effects were always incredibly tiny.
Okay, so here's the crucial turning point in our investigation. A small but statistically significant effect was found. So, what does the wider scientific community think about these results? Is this the smoking gun?
The short answer? It's a firm no. The scientific consensus on this point is really unambiguous. Despite all the claims, there is simply no accepted, validated, repeatable experiment that proves the mind can influence matter in this way. And the skepticism really boils down to three big problems. First off, and this is the big one in science, the results just can't be consistently reproduced by other independent labs. Second, the effects themselves are so unbelievably small they could easily just be random statistical noise, a fluke. And third, even if that tiny effect is real, it could be caused by all sorts of normal physical things, like the person's body heat or tiny electromagnetic fields affecting the super-sensitive equipment, not their consciousness.
So you add all that up. The lack of reproducible evidence, the plausible alternative explanations, and you can see why the scientific community doesn't categorize these claims as groundbreaking science. They're widely considered to be pseudoscience. Okay, so if the experiments don't hold water, where did this whole idea even come from in the first place? Well, the source of all the confusion actually lies in the real physics itself, specifically in one single, totally misunderstood concept.
Believe it or not, a huge chunk of this whole debate comes down to how you define one single word, observer. In quantum physics, this word has a very, very specific meaning that often gets taken completely out of context.
And right here, this is the absolute core of the misunderstanding. In the mystical view, the observer is a person, a conscious mind, that is actively creating reality by looking at it. But in science, the definition is way more boring. An observer is just anything that physically interacts with a quantum system. It could be a detector, a sensor, a camera, even a single photon bumping into it.
The proper scientific term for what's actually happening here is decoherence. It's simply the physical process of interaction with the outside world that forces a quantum particle to snap out of its weird state of multiple possibilities and into one single definite state. And this is the real aha moment. A conscious mind is not special. and it is absolutely not required for this to happen. A rock can be an observer in quantum mechanics. The collapse of a quantum state is a purely physical process, not a mental one, period.
So once you get that crucial distinction, the whole picture just snaps into focus. Let's put the mystical claim and the scientific reality right next to each other.
So here's the final breakdown. The claim, a conscious observer collapses quantum states, and experiments prove it. The reality, any physical interaction acts as an observer, the process is just called decoherence, and those experiments, well, they just aren't accepted by the scientific community.
And that's really the crucial point here. Just knowing the difference between the scientific meaning of observer and the mystical one gives you the tool you need to see exactly why these claims fall apart. It's the key to telling real, verifiable science from ideas that just sound scientific.
Which leaves us with a final thought. Okay, so it seems our minds can't magically bend reality to our will. But that doesn't make the universe any less mysterious or amazing. It just shifts our focus. The real question is, what genuine, absolutely mind-bending wonders does quantum physics still have waiting for us to discover?